Hey there, welcome to Hiker Homily number 32 for the week of August 27th. This time I got it right. Last time I said it was August 27th. It was only the 20th. I time warped. I did. I kind of traveled through time there for a minute. But we are in the 27th this time. Hiker Homily 32. Or is it 33? My God, I don't even know anymore. 32. That's what I'm going to call it. And if it's wrong, I'll call myself an idiot and put the graphics up on the screen again. Because that's how it goes. Hey, yes, I'm inside again shooting another Hiker Homily because you may even be able to hear it in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. I can hear it, but I don't know if the camera's picking it up. But across the road, it sounds like it's like right in my backyard, but across the road and way out that way, there is a crew taking out a gigantic tree. And they've been working on it for 2 days. Yeah, so I'm not going to be out there because it's bad enough I can hear it inside, let alone if I'm sitting out there trying to film this. And we got, timber going on out there. So we're inside for Hiker Homily 32. And this week, something I kind of talked about a while ago, said I was going to do this one. Excuse me. Is my take on when I think, because remember, this is not going to be a comprehensive list. This is just stuff that I've had experiences with myself. So a little bit of it is anecdotal, absolutely. I'll total transparency. A lot of this is just my own personal experience that I've had luck with. But when to go cheap for hiking gear and stuff for hiking, and when not to. That's what we're going to talk about this week. And really, it's kind of, as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of common sense. So you may have already guessed it, but I'd like to give some examples. But basically, your essential gear, and usually for hikers, the backpackers, the big three is your sleeping system, which is your sleeping bag, your air pad or whatever sleeping pad you're going to use and stuff like that. Your shelter system, your tent, hammock, whatever you happen to use, tarp, things like that, and your cooking system generally. So those are usually the big three for hikers, but there's a few others, and I've got some notes here, so I'll look down and refer to them now and then. I'm not being shy. I'm just looking down at my notes. But really, the essential gear, and yeah. So for me, a lot of the essentials are going to be things like your tent, your sleeping bag, your backpack, your shoes, and the stuff that goes with your shoes, like socks and things like that. Most of those items, your cooking stove and things like that. You should not go cheap. Don't go to the big box stores and pick up a $5.99, $5.98 like set of shoes or a $10 tent and things like that. Now, are there people out there who will be able to give anecdotal stories about I bought a $10 tent from such and such mart and I've had it for 5 years and took it to Alaska and Antarctica and it's been great? Sure. Yeah, there will be stories out there. But again, that's why I gave my caveat at the beginning. Total transparency is a lot of what I'm talking about is kind of anecdotal. Their anecdotal stories are not proof that buying that kind of gear is going to be good gear. Maybe they got lucky and happened to get that one tent that was just wow, amazing, and is able to handle the heavy backpacking. But the majority of those tents are cheap. They're made for simple car camping and real easy stuff. They are not made to be light and to go through the ruggedness of serious backpacking, especially through hiking. If you're doing the occasional backpack trip, you go backpacking maybe once or twice a year, and it's only for 2-3 nights at the most, some of that gear might be okay. But if you plan on doing backpacking multiple times a year, sometimes for a week or more than that at a time, or you're a thru hiker who's going to be out there for months at a time, sometimes thru hiking, generally any of that kind of gear, I would avoid the cheap stuff. And yeah, you're going to have to pay for decent gear. Now, the other thing on the opposite end of the spectrum, I am not saying that the most expensive gear is the best. That does not necessarily ring true either. You need to do research, and I've done that with most of the gear I've bought. I've looked things up online. There are all kinds of places out there, both blogs and video logs and experienced hikers and things like that who do gear reviews and things like that. So you're able to find a gear review for almost most of the really top line gear and stuff like that, and get people's opinions on that. But so do your research, do some work on that kind of thing, and you will find that more than likely the thing that costs the most money is not necessarily always the best fit for you specifically as far as the gear that you're looking for and things like that. Most of my stuff is, it's good. It's up on the lists for many hikers. Like the hiking boots that I use, the Targi 2s. I did a review on those and things like that. Those are very popular. They're like the third or something like that most popular hiking shoe right now. Their price is not horrible. They're not the most expensive hiking shoe in the market. They are definitely not the least expensive hiking shoe in the market, but they work well for me. I really enjoy them, and when I go out to get another set of hiking shoes, which will probably be shortly now, I will probably want to do that again. I'll probably get another set of Tarki 2s. They just have fit me well. They work well. I've enjoyed them. So, you're going to have to do some research there. Don't just go out and buy the most expensive thing and expect it to be the best, because that doesn't always ring true. But also on that kind of essential gear, don't go out and just get this cheapy stuff. Okay? Now, areas in hiking, even through hiking, that you can cut some corners on, that I have found anyway, my personal opinions. Number one, trekking poles. There are some good trekking poles out there that cost lots of money. Yes, there are. And if you get them, you will probably be very satisfied with them. You probably will be. But it's my opinion that you do not have to do that. Some of the quote-unquote cheaper trekking poles, like the set I got, and I'll be doing a review on them, I paid under $25 for my set of trekking poles, and they have lasted 2 hiking seasons so far, and they're still ready to go for more. And like I said in one of my other videos, not just 2 hiking seasons, but 2 pretty busy hiking seasons, doing a lot of day hiking with elevation changes and some rugged terrain, the Lost Coast Trail, which is extremely rugged terrain, boulders and sand and gravel and all kinds of stuff like that, dealing with that, Sierra Mountain backpacking, things like that. So, these under $25 trekking poles, I think they were $19.98 or something like that, and so with tax they were just a little over $20. They have lasted a long time, and they have done things like held my entire weight. When I almost fell and stuff like that, my whole weight was on one pole, and it held up, and has done really well. And so there you go. That's just one example. Again, totally admit that's anecdotal. I could buy another pair of the same kind of pole and have them last a month. I agree. That's very possible. But my experience so far with those particular trekking poles has been they're just outstanding. I did not have to spend $60, $70 on super awesome trekking poles when I can get these cheaper ones. And then even these cheaper ones, I can change the tips. If I want slightly more expensive tips, I can do that. But the ones they came with so far have lasted and done really well. Again, in tough terrain. Some of the other minor things, but also food. Some of the dehydrated foods out there are fantastic and flavorful, and they're great. But for one meal, they're pushing $6, $7. And so if I'm going to go through hiking or even backpacking for an extended time, 3-4 days, and I'm going to bring 3 of those a day plus whatever snacks I'm going to have, that's getting expensive. We're talking, we're pushing, $21 a day for food, not even counting my snacks and things and stuff. So if I've got a week out there, I'm spending, over $100 on food. And you don't have to do that because you can get things. I know a lot of hikers right away, they think ramen. Yes, that is one option, totally one option and things like that. But there's other stuff out there besides ramen. There's a lot of dehydrated foods that you think you can't take backpack. Oh, but this says it needs butter or it needs blah, blah. It actually doesn't. That's kind of there to kind of help maybe thicken the sauce up a little bit or to add this kind of flavor here. And you can do that without actually using the butter and things like that. I do know some people who take butter backpacking anyway. They just do. But but yeah, you don't have to have that. You can still eat these meals and they're tasty enough and things like that. And you can get them for, 98 cents, $1, much less than some of the professional backpacking dehydrated foods. So I'm not telling you to go out and just not buy the backpacking food. I have several meals myself. They're good. I kind of use them if I'm on a longer backpacking trip. I use them as kind of a special treat. I'm going to do ramen this night. The next night I'm going to do something simple, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to put water in these mashed potatoes, and that's going to be my dinner for that night. Oh, but the third night I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to do teriyaki chicken with rice and blah, blah, blah from such and such company. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. But if you're going to do nothing but those professionally done backpacking specialized meals for every single meal for a longer trip, that's going to get expensive. And you don't have to do that. There's cheaper foods out there. A lot of other minor gear. You don't have to go out and buy the most expensive shirts and clothing. Certain clothing items like socks, you should get good ones that are going to last you a long time, and they should be well done socks, because you're starting to talk about things like, you get friction. If they're not fitted well, they don't do well, they don't hold up well, they start getting holes or start rubbing in certain areas, and that's when you're talking blisters then, and you're ruining your trip and things like that. So certain clothing items I would not skimp on, but other things, you don't have to have the most expensive hat. There are certain shirts. You can go to the big box stores and get athletic shirts, running shirts, so to speak, and things like that breathe and things. So as your base layer, you don't have to go out and buy a $30 special brand on the chest shirt, that breathes and wicks and stuff. You can get shirts for $5, $6 at the big box stores that wick moisture just as well, because it's the material they're made out of, not the brand that's printed on them and things like that. They wick just as well, and so you can get away with that. So there are ways to go on the cheap when you have to, and then there are just certain things that I advise you not to go cheap with. You may have to spend a little bit more money to get a decent 3-season tent, or especially if you're talking about winter gears, you're going to spend some money. Your sleeping bag should be well graded, and you're going to spend money for that. Either down or synthetic. Don't get a cheap big box store sleeping bag and then expect to be able to go through hiking in the wintertime in the Sierras and have that be comfortable. Or even in the summertime in the Sierras, because it can still get cold and things like that. So there you go. That's, there's ways to cut corners, and for me, you cut the corners in the non-essential stuff. You go ahead and cut those corners in things that you don't, you want to bring these things, but you don't necessarily have to bring these things. Go ahead and go a little cheaper on those. And you can cut corners on food and still eat pretty well without having to spend $7, $8 per meal. You can get your meal money down to $1.50 a meal and still eat tasty food and things like that. And some of your other gear doesn't have to hammer your wallet and things like that. So that's my opinion. Anybody else have any experiences with either cheaper stuff or more expensive stuff? Because I've talked to a few hikers too that got the expensive stuff and had it fail on them drastically in the middle of the woods. That kind of sucks. So anybody else have opinions on that? Hey, let me know. Contact me at hikingforhealthca@gmail.com, or you can make a comment down below this video. Any of the videos I post, you can make a comment. Or you can get hold of me on Instagram or my Facebook page, both of those, Hiking for Health CA. And as always, thank you so much for paying attention to this goofy channel, and hopefully you get some good information out of it. Maybe spark some conversation. But if it's helpful in some way, I'd love to know. If any of this advice I give does any good That's really cool. It would be nice to know that. Let me know. But my subscribership is slowly just kind of creeping, a few at a time, and that's cool. That's fun. I'm having a good time with it. Hopefully you're enjoying it too. Thanks so much, and we will see you next week.